So The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 5 is out, and I've got a lot of things that I need to say about this. Before we get too far into this, we're like less than 200 subs away from 3,000 subscribers. I can't believe I'm even saying that. If you're new to this channel, I would love to have you here. I would love to talk to you down in the comments. Leave one because I most likely will respond, but most importantly, I'd love for you to just join this community. Okay, so let's go ahead and just talk about this wildly vast episode.
I'm Spider-Man.
As I say every single week, The Last of Us Part 2 is like my favorite game of all time. There's a lot riding on this show for me to live up to the hype that is The Last of Us Part 2, and the show's definitely changing some things. This episode really mushes a lot of the guts of the game together and kind of condenses things. Let's go ahead and get into it. A new scene that we start off with is one of the leaders of the WLF who we saw in the previous episode talking to Isaac, and we see her talking about the hospital and how the basement levels are full of infected. This was crazy because not only are there like thematic elements with this character and the cycles of revenge and, you know, protecting their loved ones, it definitely relates to things that Joel did or the opposite of what Joel did. But what really piqued my interest here is that they're talking about the basement of the hospital, which doesn't take place in the game until much later on when you're playing as a different character, not Ellie. I'm gonna try and avoid spoilers as much as I can just because I want this to be a genuine experience for you guys when you watch the show. But if you haven't played the game, please go play it. So I was like, wow, we're gonna see the hospital already? I feel like we just got to Seattle. So after this opening flashback scene, we cut back to Dina and Ellie in the theater. And there are several scenes here that are pulled directly from the game. In fact, I think the theater looked so good and looks very close to the original source material. They're triangulating the position of the wolves, and that's kind of the same thing that happens in the game. We then get the scene of Ellie playing the guitar in the theater room singing Future Days by Pearl Jam. You know this one? I love that song. And to fans of the show, you probably don't know the significance of that song just yet, but fans of the games know that it's kind of the most important song. Because they're telling the story in a different way chronologically than they did in the game, we don't necessarily know things that we knew going into this, and vice versa, we're experiencing things that don't happen until way later in the game in the show. Basically, the story is the same, but just a couple little things are being told in different orders. I don't know if that's bad, I don't know if that's good, I don't really have a preference on a lot of it. I probably will by the time the show ends because, again, I love the game so much, but I'm really enjoying the show as well. If you've played the game or at least know the story of the game, let me know down below what you think of the kind of shuffling of the order of things. Because right after the scene, we kind of just get thrown right into the big portion of the game that is, well, the entirety of Seattle. The amount of time you spend in the game in Seattle is a lot. You're exploring and you're doing a lot of video gamey stuff. I understand that that doesn't seriously, you know, always work in a TV setting and they've got to cut some things out. And I think what they chose to cut out was justified. Instead of a certain flashback happening after Ellie plays that guitar, we actually go right on the hunt for the wolves. Dina and Ellie come across the bodies of several wolf soldiers at the hands of Scars, which we've seen their brutality in the previous episode, and they're actually praising their mother. She's like a prophet figure, and the whole war between the WLF and the Scars is kind of mirroring the journey that Ellie's going on with the whole cycle of violence thing. We talked about it last week. This is very much so supposed to be a, hey, look at what you're doing, Ellie. It's no different. It's the endless loop of he did this to me, so I'm gonna do this to him, back and forth. We also get some backstory on Dina here, and I really enjoyed this because it gave Dina a much harder edge than I think she ever kind of got in the game. I mean, of course, you saw her brutality in the game, but we're not really getting all of the physical brutality that the second game offers, but we are getting the dialogue moments, and especially with Dina here, she seems more having a hard edge. She talks about her first kill, her sister, and she kind of reaffirms Ellie that she should be going on this revenge tour. So they're doing some looting, which is awesome because it's game accurate. And then all of a sudden, we get the most terrifying reveal of the stalkers. We saw a stalker in a previous episode, but now there's a whole pack of them. This does happen in the game, but it's different because Dina is actually going along with Ellie. At this point in the game, Dina's actually too pregnant and too sick to even do anything, so Ellie has to go off on her own. Having Dina here is definitely a change, but seeing how many stalkers there are and how trapped they are, it was terrifying and I loved it. Seeing how they changed things, I had a feeling of someone coming to save the day and who that person was, and of course, it's Jessie. In the source material, Jessie and Ellie kind of go off on their own little adventure for a little bit in order to get back to Dina, but here the whole gang's all together at once. I just have to reiterate, I love the stalker scenes so much. I think it's such a unique concept of the infected, and they really are displayed super well in the show. So after escaping that, we go right into the Scars. We get the iconic scene of the Scars gutting somebody while they watch, and in the game it's just Ellie, but now we have Dina and Jessie with her. They make you feel bad for the Scars in one episode, they make you feel bad for the wolves in the other episode. You can kind of see what they're doing here. No one is right right, everyone's just doing a lot of wrong. And I was also very excited because there's an iconic scene in the game where Ellie gets shot with an arrow and you have to pull it out and then you have to fight the scars, but they change it up here in a really cool writing way. They actually change it so Dina gets shot, and this is a perfect way for Jessie and Dina to go back and retreat while Ellie continues forward. It also just makes sense, so I'm glad they wrote it this way because it allows us to still tell the same story and have the same things happen that happen in the game. That being said, to play devil's advocate, I'm sitting here watching this and like, man, we've gone through so much of Seattle already. We skipped so many things that happen in the game. But these things are like kind of gamey things where you're going towards objectives, looting and stuff like that. So I'm not really mad about it because we do have so much of a story to tell. But things like the car chase with Jessie, Dina at the synagogue, learning her heritage, it's kind of missed. Maybe we will go deeper and kind of explore those scenes, but if we don't, I'm hoping they substitute it with something else, such as the Isaac storyline and maybe some other things that we haven't seen yet. Needless to say, the scar scene was really cool. I'm glad they kept the kind of eeriness to it. They don't feel as scary as they do in the game to me just because of their, you know, omnipresent nature. You don't really see them until this moment, which we've seen them already in the show, so it kind of lessens the impact a little. But overall, I'm pretty positive on it. What I didn't expect them to do was get Ellie all the way to the hospital at the wolf base in this episode. In fact, she chases down Nora and we get that whole scene in this episode. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just crazy seeing this much in the game being condensed into this much for the show. Not a bad thing, just writing for TV versus writing for a video game. One thing I didn't necessarily like about this scene actually was Ellie just getting to Nora straight away. I know you can sneak around in the game, but part of the vicious nature of Ellie is that she kills so many wolves and even their dogs to get to Nora, to get her to tell her where Abby is and then take her out. Ellie does seem a little bit less vicious in the show than she does in the game because she's having Dina reaffirm her, making sure she's still good to do what she wants to do, but we don't get to see Ellie take nearly as many people out, which kind of amps up the violence and the whole theme of it all. Here we just go right to Nora, Abby's first friend that she encounters, which in the game I think Nora is like the third friend of Abby's that we actually meet. She took out two others and they weren't even in the show to begin with. I like how they kept the chase scene similar and also how they reintroduced spores into the show. One of the coolest things that this show has done for me as a whole is the infected. The tendrils, the way they act, the hive mind, and now the spores. I mean, they're doing a lot of cool stuff that honestly I wish was in the game. Showing how the spores are made here was so cool, seeing how the cordyceps takes the human body and uses their lungs to produce the spores so they can disperse them. And we're in the basement of the hospital, wrapping back to what the episode opened with, so we know that these infected have been there for so long and that's why they can produce spores. Loved it, thought it was magnificent. I want to see more of that in the next episode and all the way to season 3, 4, whatever. Just keep evolving the infected. And speaking of an evolution of the infected, there's one in part 2 that is probably down in that basement. I'm not gonna spoil it, but wow, I hope they do it. We then get the brutal scene between Nora and Ellie. It's different though, because in the game at this point, we don't know why Ellie is doing what she's doing. We thought her and Joel kind of had a bad relationship. We don't even know if Ellie knows the truth yet. We also don't know if Ellie knows that Abby's father was the one Joel killed. A lot of it's left vague for events that happen later on in the game, whereas here, Nora kind of just explains it all to her dead and center, letting her know that you are the only immune person that I've seen before. The stories are true. Joel killed the only doctor who could have made a cure, and that doctor just happened to be Abby's dad. And Ellie still goes through with it, saying, I already know this, brutally kills Nora, and then we have a flashback tease for next week's episode. So let's pause real quick. Ellie already knows that Joel killed Abby's dad, and therefore Abby killed Joel. Ellie already knows that Joel has lied about all of this stuff, therefore the relationship was strained, which we saw. The part that we didn't see is, I'm assuming, all of the stuff we're getting next week, which is the flashback episode. We're gonna see stuff with Joel, we're gonna see the confrontation between Ellie and Joel, I presume, and I hope they keep it really similar to what they did in the game. This is different because the flashbacks actually happen periodically throughout the game, not all at once, which I think is what they're doing with the show, and maybe that's smart. Subscribe to the channel because next week when I drop that episode, I will tell you if I liked it or I didn't like it. I don't know how to feel yet because, well, I haven't seen it. Just bring your tissues for next week because my God, it's gonna be brutal, it's gonna be sad, and it's gonna be revealing. Overall, I think this might be kind of a middle of the road episode for me. I really enjoyed the really good parts, but a lot of it did feel really quick, especially considering the episode itself wasn't that long. I think after credits and the intro and the preview and the replay and stuff, it was like 40-ish minutes, which is a good amount of time, but just I want more because I'm selfish. I think next week will be a standout, especially with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey's chemistry acting together. I think they're gonna tear the house down. I hope they do. Guys, let me know what you thought down below in the comments. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all very, very soon.